Hey book lovers, I'm Elise, and today we're going to talk about all of my most anticipated books that are being published in April, May, and June. Okay, so I have a handy dandy Excel spreadsheet with tabs and everything. Look at me being organized this time. Now, these are not necessarily books that I'm definitely going to read. They are just books that, based on the premise, they sound pretty interesting to me, and there's something I'll keep my eye on when I go to the library, or if one of these pops up as like a book of the month or Aardvark book club selection. I don't actually know how many books I have on this list. I'm just gonna go in the order of their publication dates. All right, the first book on this list is Here We Go Again by Allison Cochran. This is a queer romance. This is the same author as Kiss Her Once for Me, which I did read and I really enjoyed. This one comes out April 2nd, and it is a queer rom-com following one's childhood best friends forced together to drive their former teacher across the country from Washington State to the Grand Canyon to the golf course. From Washington State, the Grand Canyon, the Gulf Coast, and Maine. I think if I remember, the teacher that they are driving across the country was like a beloved teacher of theirs. I think they might be really sick, and this is kind of like a last hurrah type thing, if I recall. The next book on this list is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. So this is a historical fantasy set during the Spanish Golden Age. Oh, bless me, I just sneezed. So this is a historical fantasy set during the Spanish Golden Age. Main character Luzia is plunged into a world of seers and alchemists, holy men and hucksters, where the line between magic, science, and fraud is never certain. This is set during a time that I am definitely interested in, so I'm really looking forward to the historical aspects of this one. The next one is Ghost Station by S.A. Barnes. This is a sci-fi horror. I've never actually read anything by this author before, but I think that's typically what they write, is sci-fi horror. This one follows psychologist Dr. Ophelia Bray. She's assigned to a small exploration crew that must survive on an ancient abandoned planet. Her life's work revolves around the study and prevention of this condition that people will get when they go to space, and it basically makes you go crazy and kill everyone. She's on board this crew, and one day one of the crew members does turn up gruesomely murdered, and she worries that her worst fears have come to life. This one sounds really interesting. It's Bless Your Heart by Lindy Ryan. It's a horror. It comes out April 9th. It's 1999 in Texas. The Evans women run the only funeral parlor in town, but one day a body is brought in and it rises from the dead. So apparently there's this group, I can't remember what they call it, but this group of creatures that were like the original vampires that used to be in existence, haven't been for a while, and apparently based on this dead person rising from the dead, it seems that those original vampires are back, and the Evans women are the only ones who will fight back to protect their town. Next up is another queer romance coming out April 16th, and that is Late Bloomer by Maisie Eddings. So this is a sapphic opposites attract romance. Opal won the lottery, so she quits her dead-end job that she was making minimum wage at, but of course after winning the lottery, a lot of people in her life are kind of hounding her and like begging for money. To escape all of that, she does put all of her money into purchasing a flower farm, and there she meets Pepper, and Pepper states that she's actually the rightful owner to the farm. The two strike a deal to cohabitate on the farm, and they butt heads a lot, but obviously they fall in love. Next is Funny Story by Emily Henry. This one comes out April 23rd. It is of course a romance. This is another book of hers that takes place in Michigan, which I'm super excited for. If you're new here, I'm from Michigan, and Emily Henry, she actually went to college in Michigan, I think Hope College if I'm not mistaken, which is in Holland, which is on like the west coast on Lake Michigan. And I do know that she still has a lot of connections here. She has a friend that lives not in my town but just south of my town, but it's like one of those towns like we're the city that they come to when they want to do things. This one is a fake dating romance in which two heartbroken people fake date each other. It's kind of messy. So I think they were both engaged to somebody else, and then their fiancés are now engaged. They're like the jilted lovers, and they start fake dating, and I don't know if it's necessarily to make their ex-fiancés jealous or what, but anyways, I'm really excited for it. Happy Place, her most recent new release before this one was my favorite so far. I'm very much looking forward to this one. The final book coming out in April, this one comes out April 30th, and that is Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. This is a mystery thriller. I really enjoy this author. I have read One of Us is Dead. Is that what it's called? I read that one, and then You Shouldn't Have Come Here. And I really enjoyed both of them, honestly. So I'm super excited about this one. This is a chilling family thriller about the sometimes literal skeletons in the closet, where three estranged siblings reunite to sort out the estate of their late mother. Reminiscing over some old VHS tapes, they stumble upon one from 1999. There's so much with 1999. Have you noticed that? Like Murder Road came out earlier this year. Granted, that's 1995, I think. Bless Your Heart, 1999, and Home is Where the Bodies Are, 1999. I don't know. Apparently people are feeling very nostalgic lately. So they come upon some old VHS tapes, and they find one from 1999 where their father is covered in blood. The video is a recording of their parents making a pact regarding getting rid of a body, and then the tape abruptly ends. So of course the siblings are like, what the heck? What did we just see? On to May. There are a lot of books in May. This is probably my most popular as far as books that I'm interested in. The first out on May 7th is The Sins on Their Bones by Laura R. Samotin. This is a fantasy romance, a Jewish folklore-inspired reimagining of 19th century Eastern Europe, a queer dark fantasy debut that pits two estranged husbands and a daring spy master on opposite sides of a civil war. Obviously, I don't know a whole lot about this one, but I love the cover, and that synopsis just sounds really interesting. If it's fantasy romance, chances are I'm going to enjoy it. Next up, out on May 14th, is The Dangerous Ones by Lauren Blackwood. This is a romantic historical fantasy set in the American Civil War with vampires and people with demigod-like abilities. Say less. Next, also out on May 14th, is My Darling Dreadful Thing by Joanna Van Veen. This is a gothic horror. In a world where the dead can wake and walk among us, what is truly real? Spirit companions, seances, and a mysterious death our main character is blamed for. This book is sapphic, gothic, and beautifully written. This next one, out on May 14th, sounds pretty interesting. You May Now Kill the Bride by Kate Weston. This is a thriller. The bride-to-be drops dead at her bachelorette weekend with all of her bridesmaids as suspects for the murder in this wry thriller full of deadly twists and characters you'll love to hate. Next are books coming out May 21st, the first of which is The Glock of Broad by Stephen Rowley. This is an LGBT contemporary. I just read The Gunkle, the first book. I really enjoyed it. In this book, gay Uncle Patrick is called back to his uncle duties at a big family wedding in Lake Como, Italy. So his brother is getting remarried. In the first book, his brother's wife passed away and the brother was struggling with addiction, so he volunteered himself to go to rehab and requested that his brother watch his two kids. So Patrick takes in his niece and nephew, and they build this really awesome bond. And it sounds like in this book, Patrick's brother has, finally moved on, found love again, and he's getting married apparently in Lake Como, Italy. Go him. Hopefully it'll be a fun time. Next is A House Like an Accordion by Audrey Burgess. This is a fantasy. Oh yeah, this one sounds really interesting. So a woman searches for her missing father in order to reconcile the many strange and fantastical secrets of her past before she loses herself completely, like literally disappears. So she's a married mother to two teenagers and wakes up one day to find that her hand is completely gone. And the description says something about like she's used to kind of disappearing like in herself, being a wife and a mom, and she's like, but going truly translucent is a new one. Next is Swiped by M.L. Chilton. This is a thriller. This is a fast-paced, twisty thriller, like if Bridget Jones found herself in a Scream film. I love Bridget Jones. I love Scream, so that is what tipped me off on this one. Gwen Turner's life is a mess, and she's recently found herself single, so she turns to a dating app and goes on disastrous date after disastrous date. But then a string of murders suddenly occurs in her small coastal city, and she is found to be the main suspect. And I think what it ends up saying is that she has to like reconnect with all the people she went on a date with to try to help prove her innocence. Next is Lies and Weddings by Kevin Kwan. This is a contemporary romance. A forbidden affair erupts volcanically amid a decadent tropical wedding. Rufus's family trust has been depleted, so his mother, former Hong Kong supermodel, plans a scheme in which Rufus attends his sister's wedding at a luxury resort where the guest list is full of sultans, barons, and oligarchs to seduce a woman with money and solve the family's money woes. So this is the same author as Crazy Rich Asians. The last book I have in May. This one comes out May 28th, and that is Evocation by S.T. Gibson. This is a fantasy romance, and it's actually the first in a new series. I'm a little nervous because I really enjoyed, this is the same author as A Dowry of Blood, as well as An Education in Malice, which I am still reading. I had an arc of that one, and I've been reading it for a couple months now. It's like, it's well written. It's just like, it feels so slow. Not much is happening. So I'm just kind of slugging through it a little bit. But this one sounds really interesting. Like I said, it's the first book in a new series about a psychic prodigy working as a Boston attorney, but moonlighting as a powerful medium for his secret society. But his days are numbered and death looms at his door because the devil has come to collect on an ancestral deal. And he soon seeks the help of his ex-boyfriend and his ex-boyfriend's wife. Kind of sounds like a little bit of a love triangle there, possibly. All right, next up are the books coming out in June. First, which is coming out June 4th, is The Ballad of Kat Deah, not sure if I'm saying that correctly, by Brian E. Cameron. This is an epic, dazzling historical tale based on true events about a woman of color's rise to power as one of the few purported female pirate captains to sail the Caribbean, and the forbidden queer love story that will shape the course of history. That synopsis honestly kind of blew my mind, and the fact that it's based on true events, pretty awesome. I'm very excited about that one, and I love the cover, honestly. That's what initially drew my eye to this book. Next is One of Our Kind by Nicola Yoon. This one is an adult mystery thriller. I don't have much description, but it's said to be The Stepford Wives meets Get Out, and that sounds amazing. So I do actually have an arc of this one, so I will hopefully be reading it very soon. Next up on June 11th is How to Age Disgracefully by Claire Pooley. This is a contemporary, and it follows Lydia, who takes a job at a senior citizen social club full of very colorful characters. It mentioned an out-of-work actor who is now a kleptomaniac, a woman who has been running from her past for decades, and then something about another woman who uses her knitting violently or something. I don't know. So when the city council threatens to sell the community building that this senior citizen social club takes place at, the members band together with the daycare next door, which includes a teenage father to one of the toddlers and a geriatric dog, to save the community building. This one honestly sounds like it's going to be really fun, probably pretty funny. Next up, coming out June 19th, is of course Riley Sager's new one, Middle of the Night. This is a thriller. I'm very excited about this one because I historically have good luck with his books that have green on the cover. My favorite books of his are Home Before Dark and The House Across the Lake. Those are both very green covers, and this one's got a lot of green on it, so I'm very excited. Not that I didn't like the other books, but they just weren't near as good in my opinion. So Ethan and his best friend Billy, I think they're like 10 years old at this time, they were camping in Ethan's backyard, but in the middle of the night somebody cuts open the tent and takes Billy, and he's never seen again. So 30 years later, Ethan has returned to his childhood home, and he begins to notice weird things happening at night. Strange figures. Sounds like it might potentially be a little bit paranormal, which I personally love in thrillers. We will see. That one sounds really good. Next up is a horror coming out June 25th, and that is The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. And this is a feminist psychological horror about the making of a female serial killer from a Korean American perspective. As you might guess, it sounds like she forms a bit of an obsession with eyeballs. So, yeah. Next up on June 25th is Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. This is also a horror. A chilling horror novel about a haunting told from the perspective of a young girl whose troubled family is targeted by an entity she calls Other Mommy. That sounds terrifying. I think kids in horror settings are really, truly quite scary. And then the whole Other Mommy aspect kind of brings to mind Coraline a little bit. Next up on June 25th is The Witchstone by Henry H. Neff. This is a fantasy horror, a high-stakes, laugh-out-loud novel about an 800-year-old demon forced to stop being a lazy curse breaker or else be melted down and return to the primordial ooze. He takes on an international adventure with a 19-year-old curse bearer to save her family. It's said to be The Good Place meets Neil Gaiman's American Gods. And honestly, this kind of reminds me a little bit of Sign Here, which I did read and I didn't enjoy. So this sounds like a little bit of that, but done better. And the final book on my list is a novel love story by Ashley Poston. This is a romance coming out June 25th. A professor of literature finds herself stranded in a quaint little town that just so happens to be the town for her favorite romance series. frozen in time due to the author having passed away. I love Ashley Poston books. I say that having only read one. I'm positive that I will love The 7-Year Slip when I get to it, and I will love this one. I just love that her books have like a magical realism aspect to them. It just adds a little something special that really makes her books stand out. Those are all the books that I'm looking forward to that'll be published in the coming months. Let me know in the comments below if these are books that you're also looking forward to, or if you've read any of them already. You know, let me know what your thoughts are. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and until next time, bye.